Chapter 275 Lambs and Wolves, in Muslim Societies, Part 10. Monday was the appointed day for the hearing of the complaint that had been submitted to the virtuous Maulana Abdul Mohsin Taha of the Sharia court by Mr. Osman Al-Taib. In his complaint, Mr. Osman Al-Taib sued his disobedient wife Mrs. Firdaus Ibrahim Mustafa Gabbar because she refused to acknowledge him as her lawful husband. Firdaus was contracted in marriage to the old man by her half-brother Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Gabbar, and that happened without her presence, knowledge, and consent. Mr. Al-Taib was 70 years old, whereas his wife Firdaus was 15 years old. Moreover, Mr. Al-Taib was already a married man and had 3 wives and many children and grandchildren. The complaint was submitted on Wednesday afternoon. The Sharia court immediately summoned the disputed couple, the imam who conducted the said marriage, the guardian of the so-called disobedient wife, and the 3 witnesses for a decision to be decided by the religious judge and his assistants. On Monday morning at 10:30 a.m., the virtuous Maulana Abdul Mohsin Taha, the main judge of the Sharia court, and his 4 assistants entered the courtroom. The title Maulana is equivalent to the name Mullah in Afghanistan and Pakistan. It is given to a religious leader, an imam of a mosque, or a judge of the Sharia court. The 5 Maulanas looked very old, but the judge was clearly the oldest among them, in age, in dress, in knowledge of the Sharia law, and most probably in experience. Everyone in the courtroom stood on his feet and wasn't permitted to sit until the 5 Maulanas were seated. A court attendant came forward and read the charge sheet. After that, he called the virtuous Maulana Sheikh Marzouk to come forward and confirm the lawfulness of the marriage contract. The virtuous man stood up and came forward. He had been given the Quran and asked to put his right hand on it and perform the oath. With his hand on the Quran, Maulana said, "I swear by the great Allah and His holy book, that I will speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing except the truth." The Quran was taken from him and he began to speak the truth, in the name of Allah, the Merciful, and the Compassionate. The virtuous Maulana Abdul Mohsin Taha and your honorable assistants. As I have placed my right hand before you, on the book of the great Allah, and swore to speak the truth, first of all I want you to know that I have never known the wali guardian of the bride before, except on the day the 2 interested parties had approached me for the marriage contract. Of course, Mr. Osman Al-Taib, the bridegroom, is well known to me. When these people approached me and asked me to conduct the marriage, I asked them the usual questions that I ask to any group of people who come to me for the same purpose. Who is the bridegroom? Mr. Osman Al-Taib said in fact he is the one. I asked who is the bride's wali guardian? Mr. Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Gabbar said he is the wali guardian. Mr. Omar further told me the bride is his sister and he is her older brother. I asked him where is her father? He replied that their father died 10 years ago and he showed me the death certificate. After that, I demanded 3 witnesses. They brought the following gentlemen as witnesses. Maulana opened his suitcase and read, Mr. Mahjoub Al-Hilali, Mr. Fatah Abdul Razik, and Mr. Mohamed Abakar Morsal. Then I asked Mr. Osman Al-Taib to pay the bride's price to the guardian wali of the bride. Mr. Osman Al-Taib immediately wrote a check to the guardian of the bride. When all those necessary conditions were fulfilled, I conducted the marriage contract of Mr. Osman Al-Taib with Intisar Ibrahim Mustafa Gabbar, in accordance to the holy book of Allah and the blessed Sunnah of our Prophet and Master Mohammed, may the prayers and peace of Allah be upon him. Objection, Your Honor, shouted Salah. All the 5 Maulanas and the entire court looked at Salah. Maulana Sheikh Marzouk doesn't know the name of the girl for whom he conducted the so-called marriage contract, said Salah before he was given permission to speak. Maulana Abdul Mohsin Taha put on his spectacles and took 5 minutes to verify the name of the girl. When he was satisfied that his colleague had made a big blunder, he asked him to repeat the bride's name again. Maulana Sheikh Marzouk by then had realized that he had confused the first marriage contract with the second one. He rebuked Satan and read the proper name. "Thank you, Blessed Mu'alana," said the judge. Then, the blessed Imam walked slowly to his seat and occupy it. After that, the bridegroom was called to come out and explain to the court how he came in contact with the bride Firdaus and her brother Omar. Mr. Osman Al-Taib stood on his feet and walked slowly towards the man who was holding the book of the Quran in his hand and waiting to take his oath. After he swore by Allah's book which he claimed to know it by heart, he began to tell the following story. The Blessed Mu'alana Abdul Mohsen Taha. The Honorable Assistants. The Reverend Court members and everyone present here. I never knew Mr. Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Gabbar, nor his sister before. I go every evening to perform my prayers at the Grand Mosque, which Allah had put in my heart to build for His glory. One day after I performed my prayer, I saw a young boy sitting in one corner of the mosque and holding the gracious Quran in his hands and bitterly weeping. His tears moved my heart and I thought he is a poor boy. I believe in doing good and helping the poor and the needy people. I approached him and asked him whether he needs some money or a job or to complete his study. He replied that none of these is his problem. I said to him, "Why do you cry then?" He said that he is having a serious problem in his family. He further said that he is having two half-sisters who have not yet married. Their mother encouraged them to move freely with boys and go to bad places, such as cinema halls, and attend parties. She even allowed them to travel with their lovers to other cities, such as Khartoum, Kassala, and Wad Madani. They spent days and nights in hotels with those boys who were neither their close relatives nor their husbands. Moreover, he showed me some photos of his sisters, which showed them hugging, kissing, and doing other bad things with those boys. I have in my suitcase some of those shameful photos. If the virtuous judges of the Sharia court of Allah want to view some of them, I am ready to show them to them. Each judge wanted to view the so-called shameful photos, but the fear of being condemned as a hypocrite by the others prevented him. Mr. Al-Taib waited for a response from the 5 men of Allah, and when none of them demanded to see the shameful photos, he resumed his tale. After that, continued the old man, the heartbroken boy told me, many times, I went to my sister's house and told their mother to correct them, but she always quarreled with me and chased me away. I said to him, "Why don't you tell your father to correct them?" He said to me that his father died 10 years ago. He further said, that many elders in his area had approached him and requested him to find husbands for his sisters before they spoil his father's name and destroy themselves. Moreover, they said that all the people in that area are worried that his sisters might influence their daughters. I said to him, "Why don't you tell their mother what the people are saying about her girls?" He said he told her, but their elder sister believes that a girl is free to fall in love with any man she likes, and also, she has the absolute right to choose her life partner among one of her lovers. The boy said further that, this sister was a university graduate and hence she neither believed in God nor in the importance of following good Muslim morale. In addition, that sister believes a girl must practice premarital sex with her boyfriend so that she can know whether the two lovers are sexually compatible or not. The good boy also confided to me that that sister is a lesbian and have a female lover. For that reason she remained unmarried until she reached 25 years of age. Nevertheless, I said to him, even though I am a man of great wealth and influence, I find myself helpless in such a case. Even so, I advised him to look for men who may agree to marry his sisters. He said he has been looking for the past 2 years, but didn't find anyone. He also said that with the improper behaviors of his sisters, he wouldn't expect any family to agree for its son to marry one of his sisters. Then I said to him, although I have many sons, I don't think that any one of them will agree to marry one of your sisters. He said to me, "Uncle, why don't you help me?" I laughed at his suggestion and said to him, "My son, I am an old man and I have already 3 wives. Nonetheless," he said again, "Uncle, from what the people are saying about you, I know you are a man of great help and hence I need your help." He reminded me of my charity deeds of building the Grand Mosque, the girls' high school, and a hospital for the city. I thanked him for his good words. He then held my right hand and kissed it and begged me to marry one of his sisters. I laughed and said to him, "I can help you in everything except this." He said once more, "Uncle, if you marry one of my sisters, every man in our city will be interested to marry the other one." I thanked him for his great trust in me and I told him to give me some time to think about this matter. That night I couldn't sleep. My heart was troubling me the whole night. I said to myself, here is a good boy who wants to protect his sisters from falling into deeper disgrace, but nobody is ready to help him. If I don't help him, I will be as those elders who help only with their mouths. Therefore, I decided to marry one of his sisters. No matter whether she is beautiful or ugly, rich or poor, young or old, good or bad. When Mr. Osman Al-Taib said those last words, his bogus story was interrupted by a sudden clapping of hands by the audience. Even the virtuous Maulana Abdul Mohsin Taha and his assistants also joined their hands in clapping. Next day, continued Mr. Osman Al-Taib with a loud voice, I went to the mosque and met the boy and I said to him, I have 3 wives and hence I am not interested in any more. If I want a 4th wife, many good and rich families in our society will be happy to give me their most fair and young and well-beloved daughter. From what you said about your sisters, I gathered that they are lacking in these virtues. Even though, I have decided to marry one of your sisters in order to save your family from falling in more disgrace. The false story once again was interrupted by another clapping from the audience and the 5 Maulanas. Nevertheless, this time the narrator's son stood on his feet and shouted loudly, "This man is a liar." "Sit down," responded the judge, "and don't talk unless I permit you to do so." The narrator looked seriously at his son, and resumed his false story. After that, I took the good boy to our blessed Maulana Sheikh Marzouk and revealed to him what Allah has put in my heart. Maulana welcomed the idea full-heartedly and told me if we have 10 people like you, our city will be an ideal city. The old man waited for another clapping, but this time he got disappointed. I expected that my good deed will bring happiness to me, but instead it brought threat on my life and turned my own son against me. I am ashamed to say that later on, I discovered that my own son was one of the girl's lovers. The girl and 2 of her lovers and her other 2 sisters came to my office and threatened to kill me if I touched their girl. The virtuous Maulana Sheikh Marzouk was present when they voiced their threat and he had rebuked them and encouraged me to bring my complaint before the Sharia court of Allah and his beloved Prophet and Messenger Muhammad. At this junction, the narrator began to weep and shed crocodile tears. Maulana Sheikh Marzouk came forward and took him to his seat. After that, there was a sad silence in the court, as if the hero of the story had died at the end. The judge himself called upon the bride's guardian and requested him to testify before the reverend court. A young man stood on his feet with great difficulty. He had been supported by 3 men from falling down. With great effort they dragged him forward until they reached the man who is waiting for him to say the oath. One of the 3 men took the young man's hand and put it on the Quran. When the court had a good view of the young man's face, they thought he is either blown up by a bomb, or attacked by wild beasts, or fell in the hands of the ISIS terrorists. The 3 men put him in an armchair. When they became sure that he is not likely to fall either forward or backward or sideways, they left him and returned to their seats. Everybody in the court waited for the young man to tell not only his opinion in the trial, but what happened to him. The boy tried to speak, but his voice failed him, even though his mouth was fully opened. Maulana Abdul Mohsin Taha requested Maulana Sheikh Marzouk to act as his loudspeaker. "I swear by the great Allah and his gracious book," said the loudspeaker, "that I will speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else except the truth. First of all I confirm, whatever the virtuous Maulana Sheikh Marzouk and the good man Mr. Osman Al-Taib have testified before this holy court of Allah. Each and every word they said is true. Before I go into more details, I want the virtuous Mu'allana Abdul Mohsin Taha and his assistants and everybody present here to know that, for the good which I have done to my sisters, I am in this miserable condition. While I was coming from the mosque yesterday at 4 a.m., a car stopped suddenly near me. 3 men emerged from the car and attacked me. They were wearing black masks. They closed my mouth and dragged me forcibly inside the car and drove towards the wilderness. When the car reached the eastern graveyards, it halted. They dragged me out of the car and started to beat me. After a lot of beating, they showed me a paper whereupon it was written, I, Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Gabber, confess that Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib and Mr. Mahjoub Al-Hilali had bribed me with a large sum of money. I had agreed that they can marry my 2 half-sisters Intisar and Firdaus. I told them I will never sign such a false statement, even under the threat of death. I will rather die, than betray innocent people. They continued to beat me until I completely collapsed. I lost my consciousness due to their merciless beating. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in my house surrounded by my mother, the virtuous Mu'allana Sheikh Marzouk, and the good man Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib. From them, I came to know that I had been rescued by a milkman, who happened to pass by the graveyards road at that time. My kidnappers ran away when they saw the milkman coming along the way. Fortunately, the milkman happened to be our milkman. He put my unconscious body on his donkey and brought me to my house. The wali began to cough loudly and pretend that his strength had gone. The judge told him to go back to his seat. The 3 bearers came again and carried the sick man to his seat. After the wali's testimony, the wife is requested by the judge to come forward and explain to the court the reason of her refusal to join her husband Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib. When the sulky girl heard her name being called, she refused to stand on her feet. Frida tried, Intisar tried, Sami tried, Salah tried, but none of them is able to convince her to stand up. Salah whispered some words in her ears, which caused her to respond with a faint smile. Before the smile can die away, he took hold of her hand and made her to stand on her feet. Intisar took her other hand and led her forward. She also needed a loudspeaker, and hence the judge requested her sister Intisar to voice out her words. "Are you Firdaus Ibrahim Mustafa Gabber?" asked the judge. "Yes, I am," repeated Intisar loudly. "Have you been proposed to any man before Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib?" "Yes." "How many proposals did you receive?" "5 proposals." "Why did you reject all these proposals?" "Because I don't love those who proposed themselves to me." "So, you will accept the man whom you love?" "Yes." "Right now, do you have any lover?" "No." Reply. "Do you know that you are a married woman?" "I am not married to anybody." "Why are you refusing to join your husband Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib?" "Because he is not my husband and I don't love him." "Forget about love and tell me any other genuine reason." "I have told you that he is not my husband and I hate to see him." "Why do you hate him?" "Because he is a shameless old man." "How can he dare to marry me without my consent?" "Because he is an old man, that is why you refused him." "Yes, I refused him because he is a shameless old man. How can he expect a girl of my age to marry him?" But the Prophet Muhammad, prayers and peace of Allah be upon him, had married Aisha, the daughter of his friend, Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, when he is 53 years old and she is half of your age. She didn't hate him or call him shameless old man. How do you know that she didn't hate him? "The curse of Allah and his angels be on you," shouted Mu'allana Abdul Mohsin Taha. "You are a bad and disobedient girl and also you don't have respect for your prophet," shouted another Mu'allana. "I swear by Allah, if you are my daughter, I would have cut your tongue," shouted the virtuous Mu'allana Sheikh Marzouk. "You are truly in need of a man to chastise you," shouted yet another Mu'allana. "Go back to your seat," shouted Mu'allana Abdul Mohsin Taha. Intisar hurriedly pulled her sister away, before one of the angry Mu'allanas will assault her and cut off her tongue. When the two sisters occupied their seats, the judge called out the 3 witnesses to come forward and confirm the marriage contract. Those 3 gentlemen that carried the wali to and fro came out and swore by Allah and His book, that they are present at the Grand Mosque when the marriage is conducted by Maulana Sheikh Marzouk and acted as witnesses on their own free will. When the court was satisfied concerning the lawfulness of the marriage contract, the judge stood on his feet and passed his judgment as follows. In the name of Allah, the Merciful and the Most Compassionate. Our gracious Prophet Muhammad, peace and prayers of Allah be upon him, said, whosoever chastises his daughters and gives them in marriage, he enters paradise. Today we witnessed a case of a girl who lost her father when she was a child. Therefore, she did not receive the right upbringing from her childhood. Her mother couldn't show her the right way. At least she would have taught her to have respect for her Prophet, who never spoke in vain, but his words are a direct revelation from Allah. All of us have heard her blasphemous words against the Prophet and his beloved wife Aisha, who is the mother of the faithful. I seek refuge in Allah from such a satanic utterance. It is obvious such a girl needs a strong man to chastise her and bring her back to the right path of the blessed ancestors. I am glad that her brother Omar acted at the right time and brought to her such a blessed man as Mr. Osman al-Tayyib. I know it is not an easy decision for him to marry such a girl, but since Allah has put it in his large heart, He will assist him. As a Sharia court judge, I pass the obedience sentence on Firdaus Ibrahim Mustafa Gabbar, the lawful wife of Mr. Osman al-Tayyib. This Sharia court orders that the said wife has to be transferred by the law enforcement to the house of her husband so that he can consummate his marriage with her. The obedience sentence was carried out on the following day by 5 police officers. When Frida, Salah and Sami learned that Firdaus had been taken away by 5 policemen, they scattered in different directions in the search for her. Unfortunately, none of them had made a right guess, for Firdaus by now was an hour away from Al-Gadarif city. She was on her way to the house of the old geezer in Khartoum city,